Mornings can feel like a heavy weight, as if the moment we open our eyes, the flood of worries begins. It's as though the world's demands rush in, and we're instantly consumed by them. From the overflowing to-do lists to the unresolved challenges of yesterday, it's easy to feel overwhelmed right from the start. The tightness in your chest, the racing thoughts, and the constant tugging of your mind are all signs that the day ahead might be just too much. And yet, how often do we try to control every little detail, believing that if we don't, things will spiral out of control? We grasp at anything we can hold, hoping that we can somehow make things easier or fix them before they get worse. But what if, instead of holding on tighter, we let go? What if we surrendered our worries to a power far greater than ourselves? What if, instead of trying to manage every worry, we took a deep breath and allowed ourselves to trust that someone else is holding it all together? Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It's about realizing that some things were never ours to control in the first place. It's an act of surrender, choosing to release the weight that we were never meant to carry. It's not a sign of weakness, but a declaration that we trust in God's plan for us. Through surrender, we find peace, a peace that only comes when we stop trying to carry everything ourselves. And with that peace comes the freedom to step into each day with calm, knowing that we are not alone. So, as we pause and reflect on our burdens, what would it look like to give them over to God today? Let's take that first step toward peace by acknowledging that we don't have to do it all. When we stop, breathe, and surrender, we start to realize that peace isn't as far away as we think. Trusting God's invitation, Matthew 11 verse 28. Jesus' words in Matthew 11 verse 28 are not merely a command, but an invitation, a call to step away from the weight of our burdens and find rest in Him. He invites us, not to simply endure our struggles, but to bring them to Him, knowing that He is ready to take them from our shoulders. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. These words resonate deeply because they are a reminder that we don't have to carry our worries alone. They are a beckoning, a promise of release from the relentless grasp of anxiety that often defines our lives. The rest that Jesus offers is far beyond the physical relief we may seek after a long day's work. It's not about taking a nap or relaxing after stress. This rest goes deeper. It reaches the soul, offering peace that transcends momentary exhaustion. It's the kind of peace that settles the racing thoughts in our minds and calms the storm within. When Jesus speaks of rest, He is not just addressing our need for a good night's sleep. He is offering an end to the internal turmoil that robs us of our peace, the kind of peace that only comes when we trust Him with all that weighs us down. Trusting in God's invitation means believing that He is capable of handling our burdens. It requires letting go of our need to control everything. When we surrender, we acknowledge that we cannot solve everything by our own efforts. This trust is not passive. It's an active step of faith, a decision to relinquish our anxiety and place it in God's hands. We often find ourselves trying to manage the outcomes of life, but God's control is perfect, and He is always working things out for our good, even when we can't see it. Through this invitation, God reminds us that He is present in our struggles. His presence is not distant or detached. It's immediate, steady, and ever-present. We do not have to face our fears and worries alone. He is right beside us, offering peace, even in the most stressful of times. God is not a far-off observer. He is an active participant in our lives, guiding us through every challenge. The beauty of trusting Him is that we don't have to have all the answers or understand everything in the moment. Trusting God is knowing that He is with us every step of the way. When we truly trust in God's invitation to rest, we begin to understand the difference between temporary physical rest and the soul-deep peace He offers. It's easy to think of rest as merely a physical need, a quick nap or vacation to recharge. But the peace God offers is far richer. It is not simply a break from our daily tasks, it is the quieting of our spirits. This is the kind of peace that stills our anxieties, erases our fears, and brings clarity in moments of chaos. This peace isn't found in avoiding responsibilities, but in trusting that God will guide us through them, no matter how overwhelming they may seem. We all struggle with the temptation to control every aspect of our lives. Whether it's worrying about our career, our relationships, or our future, the need to manage every outcome often leads us to exhaustion and frustration. But in Matthew 11, verse 28, Jesus offers something radically different, a promise of rest that comes from trusting Him. The invitation to lay our burdens at His feet is not just about finding a temporary respite, but about learning to live in the freedom that comes from surrender. When we stop striving and start trusting, we experience a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that sustains us in the most difficult seasons of life. Jesus doesn't say we have to have everything figured out before we come to Him. He simply invites us to come as we are, weary and burdened, and He will give us rest. The kind of rest He offers is not a one-time fix, but an ongoing invitation. Each day, we are invited to bring our burdens before Him, to trust Him with the small worries and the big fears. Even when the road ahead seems unclear, when the weight of the world feels unbearable, Jesus promises that He is with us. He will never leave us to carry our burdens alone. When we choose to trust in God, we make the conscious decision to release our worries into His hands. In doing so, we experience a peace that is not dependent on circumstances, but on His unwavering presence and control. He is always at work in our lives, even when we can't see the full picture. His plans are always good, and He is guiding us every step of the way. So, when the weight of the world feels heavy, remember that Jesus' invitation still stands. Come to Him with your worries, your burdens, and your fears, and allow His peace to flood your soul. Trust that, even when things seem out of control, He is holding everything together. When you feel overwhelmed, picture yourself laying your burdens down at His feet, trusting that He is carrying them for you. His peace is not a far-off promise, but a present reality for all who trust in His loving care. Surrender through trust. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 presents a powerful message about trusting God with our entire lives, emphasizing the importance of surrendering control, not just in moments of crisis, but every single day. The verses read, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This invitation to trust is a continual reminder that we are not meant to carry the burden of control, nor should we try to figure everything out on our own. Instead, God calls us to trust in His wisdom and surrender the need to control every outcome. Surrendering, in the context of Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, is not just for those times when everything falls apart. It's a daily decision to relinquish our anxieties, fears, and uncertainties to God. Every day, we are faced with countless choices, small and large, that test our ability to trust. From deciding what to have for breakfast, to more weighty decisions like career changes or navigating complex relationships, we are constantly deciding whether to rely on our own understanding or to trust that God's plan will unfold perfectly in its own time. This can be difficult. We like to have control over our lives. We feel more comfortable when we know what's coming next, when we have a plan, when we feel we can manage every detail. But this mindset can lead to frustration, stress, and even burnout. It is easy to forget that God, in His infinite wisdom, sees the entire picture, while we only see fragments. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 invites us to let go of this limited perspective and to lean fully into God's understanding, knowing that His guidance is far greater than anything we could craft on our own. The struggle to let go of control is real. It's natural to want to maintain some semblance of power over our lives, to make sure everything goes according to plan. But trusting God with everything means surrendering even the smallest worries, the ones we feel we can handle on our own, and giving them over to Him. It's in these moments of surrender, when we acknowledge that we are not in control, that we open the door to peace and wisdom. When we stop striving to figure it all out ourselves, we invite God's grace to carry us. One of the most profound aspects of this surrender is recognizing that God's ways are higher than ours. When we trust Him, we let go of the need to see the outcome right away. Trusting in God's perfect timing and plan frees us from the grip of worry and anxiety. We may not understand why certain things happen or why our paths are taking unexpected turns, but we can trust that He is always working for our good. Our limited view of the world often blinds us to the greater masterpiece that God is creating. We must remember that while we see only the small details, He is weaving everything together in ways we may never fully comprehend. This trust in God does not come easily. It is a decision that must be made daily, especially when faced with challenges that seem insurmountable. The more we lean into God's wisdom, the more we experience His peace. Our paths become clearer as we submit to His guidance, even when we don't have all the answers. Trusting God with our whole hearts doesn't mean we will never struggle or experience difficulty, but it does mean that we don't have to carry those burdens alone. He will make our path straight, not just in the sense of guiding us toward the right decisions, but also by providing the strength we need to navigate the twists and turns of life. It's important to understand that trusting God fully, as described in Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, isn't just about big life-changing moments. It's about surrendering the small, everyday burdens, the fears, doubts, and challenges that arise from the ordinary events of our lives also require surrender. When we surrender our daily struggles to God, we invite Him into every aspect of our lives, and in doing so, we begin to experience the peace that surpasses understanding. Trusting in God's wisdom, rather than relying on our own limited understanding, allows us to live with a deep sense of security, knowing that no matter what happens, He is in control. The beauty of surrendering to God is that it frees us from the exhausting burden of trying to control everything. Instead of worrying about what we can't change, we can focus on what we can do, which is to trust Him. This act of trust creates space for God's wisdom to lead us, even when we don't fully understand the journey ahead. So, in your daily life, whether you're facing small decisions or big challenges, take a moment to reflect on Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6. Trust God completely, surrender your fears and worries, and allow His wisdom to guide you. It's not always easy to let go of control, but in doing so, we open ourselves up to God's perfect peace, trust, and guidance. The peace of surrender. Psalm 55 verse 22. Psalm 55 verse 22 offers a profound promise. Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. This verse is a powerful reminder of God's unwavering support in times of stress, anxiety, and uncertainty. It emphasizes the importance of surrendering our burdens, not gently handing them over, but forcefully casting them onto God. There is something powerful about the imagery of casting our cares, which implies not just a passive transfer, but an active decision to let go of what we cannot control. When we read the words "cast your cares," it's essential to understand the depth of the action. It is not about reluctantly releasing a worry here or there, but about surrendering with urgency, almost as though we are throwing something heavy from our shoulders. Imagine carrying a large, cumbersome burden that you can no longer bear. The physical strain is overwhelming, and the mental weight is exhausting. Now, picture yourself letting go of that burden, throwing it away with a deep sense of relief, knowing that someone else is ready to carry it for you. That is the essence of what Psalm 55 verse 22 encourages us to do. We are not meant to carry the weight of our worries, fears, and doubts alone. Instead, we are invited to give them to God, who has the power to sustain us through the toughest times. There is freedom in releasing our burdens. When we choose to surrender our anxieties, we are allowing ourselves to experience the peace that only God can provide. The act of surrender is not passive. It is an active choice to relinquish control. It's a declaration that we trust God more than our own understanding. The promise that God will sustain us is not just about surviving the storm. It is about thriving in His presence, knowing that we are held by His strength, not our own. But what does it look like in practical terms to cast our burdens onto God? It's not always easy. We live in a world that values self-reliance, and it can be difficult to let go of the desire to control every aspect of our lives. However, the process of casting our cares requires conscious effort. When we feel overwhelmed by stress, fear, or uncertainty, it can be helpful to physically engage in the act of surrender. This could mean something as simple as sitting quietly, closing our eyes, and mentally handing over each worry one by one to God. It might involve writing down our fears and anxieties, symbolically casting them away by tearing up the paper or placing it in a container to represent releasing those concerns into God's hands. Mentally, we can also cast our burdens by shifting our focus away from our circumstances to God's promises. This might mean choosing to meditate on Psalm 55 verse 22, repeating to ourselves, "God will sustain me. He will never let me be shaken." When we feel anxious, we can choose to stop spiraling into worry by redirecting our thoughts toward God's sovereignty and faithfulness. Through these actions, we are actively choosing to trust in God's sustaining power, which in turn brings peace to our hearts and minds. There's a reason why the Bible speaks so strongly about surrendering our worries to God. We were never meant to carry the weight of the world. Our strength is limited, but God's strength is infinite. Surrendering our burdens isn't a sign of weakness. Rather, it's an act of courage and faith. It's a choice to acknowledge that we are not in control, but God is, and that is enough. When we trust in God's ability to sustain us, we find freedom from the constant pressure to figure everything out on our own. Practicing the act of casting our burdens onto God is not a one-time event, but a daily choice. Every day brings new challenges, new worries, and new opportunities to release our concerns to God. The more we practice surrender, the more natural it becomes to trust Him with the little things as well as the big ones. It's about developing a lifestyle of surrender, where we recognize that every moment is an opportunity to place our worries into God's hands. As you reflect on Psalm 55 verse 22, ask yourself, what burdens am I holding on to that I need to surrender today? Is there something I've been trying to control, something I'm afraid to let go of? Remember that God promises to sustain us when we cast our cares upon Him. You don't have to bear the weight of your worries alone. When you surrender to God, you are not giving up. You are embracing His sustaining power, finding peace in His presence, and allowing Him to guide you through life's challenges. Let go and let God carry what was never meant for you to carry. Each time you cast your burdens onto Him, you open the door to greater peace and freedom. Trust in His sustaining power today, knowing that He will never let you be shaken. Daily surrender, embracing God's control. Starting each day with surrender is a powerful practice that allows us to align our hearts with God's will. Psalm 55 verse 22 encourages us to cast our burdens on God, knowing that He will sustain us. This promise isn't just for moments of crisis, it is for every day. In fact, the daily surrender of our worries, no matter how small, is crucial to living in constant trust and faith in God's control. The first step in practicing daily surrender is to make it a habit at the start of each day. Before you even get out of bed, take a deep breath and ask God to guide your day. Acknowledge that you don't have to carry the weight of your responsibilities, anxieties, or worries. Offer them to God, saying, "Lord, I trust you with everything today. Help me to let go of control and follow your lead." This simple moment of surrender sets the tone for the rest of your day. As the day progresses, there will be countless opportunities to trust God in small, seemingly insignificant moments. Whether it's a challenging conversation at work, a concern about a loved one, or even something as simple as managing your to-do list, each moment is an invitation to let go and surrender. Remind yourself that God is in control of all things, big and small. Whenever you feel anxious or tempted to take control, pause and refocus. Say a quick prayer or whisper to yourself, "God, I trust you," and release the situation into His hands. Daily surrender doesn't mean you won't face struggles. It means you don't have to face them alone. It's about choosing trust over worry, peace over anxiety, and faith over fear. By surrendering to God daily, you not only lighten your emotional and mental load, but you also deepen your relationship with Him. As you begin this practice, remember that every day is an opportunity to practice trust. Each small act of surrender builds your faith and prepares you for the bigger challenges ahead. Trusting God with your day is an act of faith that honors His power and control. Choose to embrace God's peace each morning and carry it with you throughout the day. The more you surrender, the more you'll experience His sustaining presence, guiding you every step of the way. Conclusion: surrender and the freedom in God's peace. As we come to the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect on the power of surrender and the freedom it brings through God's peace. We've learned that surrender isn't about giving up, it's about letting go and trusting in God's perfect control. With each surrender, we make room for His peace to fill the spaces of anxiety and unrest in our lives. His peace doesn't just calm the external storms, it reaches deep into our hearts, settling our souls and providing comfort in moments of chaos. When we surrender, we acknowledge that we are not alone in our struggles. Instead of carrying the weight of life's burdens on our own, we choose to place them into God's hands. This act of faith is not a passive one. It requires courage to trust that God is not only able, but willing to carry us through. With His peace surrounding us, we can face anything, knowing that our lives are in His control. When doubt begins to creep in, or when the world feels heavy, we remind ourselves that we are held by an everlasting peace that never falters. Father, I come before you, offering my heart, my worries, and all my burdens. I surrender them into your capable hands. Help me to remember that in every moment of fear, stress, and uncertainty, you are with me, guiding my steps. Your promise of peace is not a fleeting comfort. It is a constant presence that sustains me even when the world around me is shaking. When everything seems overwhelming, your peace steadies my heart and my mind. It is the calm in the storm, the assurance that you are in control even when things feel out of my control. Today, I affirm that I trust in your timing. Even when I don't understand, I choose to rest in your sovereignty. You are the creator of all things, and I trust that your plans are always for my good. Let your peace guard my heart and mind. When worry creeps in, I will remind myself of your faithfulness and the certainty that you are in control. As I step into today, I carry this affirmation in my heart. I surrender my worries to God. His peace sustains me, and His love carries me through every trial. May these words be my anchor throughout the day, reminding me that I don't have to carry my burdens alone. With you, Lord, I can rest in the freedom of surrender, knowing that your peace is always available and that you are leading me to a future filled with hope. Your peace is not just a distant promise for the future, it is a present reality, available to me right now. Every time anxiety surfaces, I can turn to you, knowing that you hold the answers and the solutions. The more I surrender, the more I experience the true freedom that comes from trusting you completely. Today, I choose to let go of what I cannot control, to embrace your peace, and to walk in the knowledge that you are with me every step of the way. Amen.